In the far corner of the galaxy, on a dusty colony world, two alien twins were born under a red sky. Their birth should have been a reason for joy. Twins were rare among their kind, seen as a gift of fortune. But the moment these two opened their tiny mouths to cry, something terrible spread through the air. A smell, sharp, rotten, and unbearable, flowed from their bodies. It was so strong that even the midwives who delivered them dropped the children and ran outside, coughing and gasping for breath. From that day, the twins were cursed. No one came close to them. No one dared to hold them, feed them, or even whisper their names. They were left in a small corner of the colony, separated from the others. Food was thrown from a distance. The smell grew stronger with each passing day, soaking into the air like poison. The colony believed the children were not ordinary. Some said they were demons born in flesh. Others said the gods were punishing them for sins unknown. Their parents did not last long. The shame of having such cursed daughters was too much. One morning they vanished, leaving the twins alone. From then on, the girls grew in silence and loneliness. They learned early that no one would help them. No one would speak to them. Whenever they tried to walk closer to other children, screams filled the air. "Stay back! Don't come near!" The twins would stop and lower their heads, their hearts sinking deeper into the shadow of rejection. The stench was so powerful that even animals refused to come near. Dogs and beasts of burden ran away the moment they sensed the twins. Birds did not land on their roof. The twins lived in a world with no touch, no kindness, no warmth. Only the cruel whispers of the colony followed them. The cursed ones. But the truth was different. Behind the smell, the twins had bright eyes that shone like emerald fire. Their laughter, when they dared to laugh, was soft like the sound of bells. They had gentle hands, always holding on to each other because the world refused to hold them. But no one cared. No one saw past the stench. Years passed. The twins grew into young women, tall and graceful, but still surrounded by the invisible wall of their curse. The smell had not faded. If anything, it had grown worse. The colony built new homes farther away, leaving the twins in an abandoned corner. No one wished to share the same air. No one wished to share the same fate. Then one day a stranger came to the colony. His name was Ethan. He was a human engineer who traveled from world to world fixing broken machines and building new ones. He had come to this colony for work, not for trouble. But trouble has a way of finding those who are not afraid to look. Ethan noticed something strange on his first day. He walked through the market and saw people hurrying past one side of the colony, their faces twisted with disgust. They held cloths to their noses. Children were told not to go there. When Ethan asked why, no one gave him a clear answer. They only said, "Do not go near that place. You will regret it." The human was curious. He was used to strange things. He had seen creatures with 3 heads, plants that sang, and storms of fire that rained from the sky. But never had he seen an entire colony avoid one corner like it was cursed ground. So that night, when the sky turned dark and the red moons rose, Ethan walked toward the abandoned side. The air grew heavy. A strange odor floated around him, sour and sharp, but not unbearable to his human nose. He covered his mouth for a moment, then kept walking. And then he heard it, soft crying like the echo of 2 broken souls. He followed the sound and saw them. 2 young alien girls sat huddled together in the shadows, their arms wrapped around each other, their faces hidden. Their clothes were old and dirty. Their bodies shook with fear. Yet even in their misery, Ethan noticed something unusual. Their eyes, glowing green like living gems, watched him with a mix of hope and despair. Ethan stopped. He had seen many things in his travels, but nothing like this. He felt the pull of fate, though he could not name it yet. These girls were different. They were suffering, and they were alone. The colony had abandoned them, but his human heart could not. Behind him, the wind carried faint whispers from the settlement. "Do not touch them. Do not go near." But Ethan took one more step forward. The smell was strong, but he did not turn away. Something inside him told him the truth. These twins were not cursed. They were abandoned. And perhaps they were waiting for someone exactly like him. The night grew colder. The girls lowered their heads again, certain he would leave like everyone else. But Ethan did not move. He only whispered to himself, "No one deserves to be alone like this." And in that moment, under the red moons of the colony world, a story began. A story of a human who would not walk away. A story that would shake the colony and perhaps the entire galaxy. Ethan stood still, his boots pressing into the dusty ground, staring at the alien twins. They were not monsters, as the colony had whispered. They were simply alone. Two young girls huddled together, their thin arms wrapped so tightly around each other it seemed they feared the universe itself would tear them apart. Their smell was strong. Yes, but to his human senses it was different. It stung like burnt metal or spoiled air, but it was not unbearable. He had worked inside engine rooms full of leaking fumes. He had walked through sewage tunnels on old mining stations. This smell was nothing compared to that. But the way the aliens reacted, the way they feared these twins, was something Ethan could not understand. He took a step forward. The twins flinched. Their bright green eyes widened in fear. They had learned since birth that anyone who came close would turn away. They had seen people gag, spit, and throw stones from a distance. To them, Ethan was only another stranger who would run once the smell reached him. "Don't be afraid," Ethan said softly, his voice calm and steady. His words were in standard Galactic, a language most colonies used for trade. He did not know if they understood, but tone could cross all languages. Tone could reach hearts when words failed. The twins pressed closer together, hiding their faces in each other's shoulders. Their silence was louder than any scream. Ethan stopped a few steps away. He crouched, lowering himself to their level, and placed his tools on the ground to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. "I heard you crying." One of the twins peeked up. Her eyes met his, glowing faintly in the dim light. For a heartbeat, something passed between them, an unspoken question. "Will you leave too?" Behind him, far away, Ethan heard the voices of colonists shouting. They had noticed him walking into the cursed corner. "Stay away from them," one voice yelled. Another added, "The human doesn't know what he's doing. The stench will rot him from inside." Their warnings echoed across the empty street, but Ethan ignored them. Instead, he slowly reached into his pack and pulled out a small water flask. He uncapped it and placed it gently on the ground, pushing it forward. "Here," he said. "You must be thirsty." The girls looked at the flask with suspicion. Their people had given them food and water before, but always by throwing it from far away as though they were animals in a cage. No one had ever offered something with kindness. After a long silence, the braver twin reached out with trembling fingers. She touched the flask, then quickly pulled her hand back as if expecting Ethan to strike her. But when he only smiled, she tried again. This time she grabbed it and pulled it into her lap. She opened the flask, sniffed, and then drank. The water ran down her chin, and she gasped as though she had never tasted anything so pure. She passed it to her sister, who drank too, her hands shaking so much the flask nearly spilled. Ethan watched quietly, his heart aching. "How long have you been left like this?" he whispered to himself. He knew they couldn't answer, but their thin bodies, ragged clothes, and sunken cheeks gave him the answer. Too long. Far too long. One of the girls, her eyes softer than her sister's, suddenly reached out. She touched Ethan's boot gently, carefully, as though testing if he was real. Then she quickly pulled her hand back. That small act told Ethan more than words ever could. They had been starved of contact, of simple human or alien touch. They wanted to trust, but the world had taught them only fear. Ethan's decision was made in that moment. He could not leave them. He pulled a cloth from his bag, dipped it with the last of his water, and slowly extended it. The twins tensed again, but this time he did not push it into their hands. Instead, he used it to wipe the dirt and tears from his own face, showing them it was safe. Then he held it out. The bolder twin hesitated, then reached forward and took it. She pressed it to her face, scrubbing her cheeks. Her sister followed, copying her until their faces shone clean for the first time in years. Ethan smiled. For the first time, the twins smiled back. Small, uncertain, but real. From the shadows behind, the colonists watched in shock. "It's impossible," someone muttered. "Why isn't he sick? Why doesn't he collapse from the stench?" Others whispered, "Maybe humans are different. Maybe the curse does not touch him." But Ethan did not care about their whispers. All he cared about were the two girls before him, their eyes shining brighter than the moons above. "Don't worry," he told them gently. "You're not alone anymore." The twins could not yet speak his words, but they understood the feeling. For the first time in their lives, someone had not turned away. Someone had come closer, and in that moment the first fragile bond was formed. a bond that would soon challenge an entire colony and shake the laws of the galaxy. The next morning, the colony woke to whispers. Everyone had seen the human enter the cursed corner. Everyone had seen him kneel before the twins, give them water, and touch them without fear. By dawn, rumors spread like fire. The human is mad. He touched the cursed ones. He will carry their disease and bring it upon us all. By midday, Ethan found the path to the marketplace empty. When people saw him, they pulled their children close and stepped aside as if his body was now tainted. He felt their eyes burning into his back, filled with disgust and fear. But he did not care. His mind was still with the twins, their thin faces, their trembling hands, and their fragile smiles that had broken through years of sorrow. He returned to them again that evening. This time he brought food, bread, fruit, and some dried meat from his own supplies. The girls stared wide-eyed as he sat with them. He tore pieces of bread and offered it gently. At first they hesitated, afraid it was a trick. But when Ethan placed a piece in his own mouth, chewing slowly, they understood. Their hunger overcame fear. They ate, their faces glowing with joy that no stench could hide. And in that simple act, Ethan made his choice. He would not turn away. He would not let them starve in the dark while the colony pretended they didn't exist. If the colony wanted to call them cursed, so be it. He would call them something else, alive. But the colony was not ready to let this go. On the third day, the elders called Ethan before their council. The chamber was wide, its walls lined with glowing crystals, its air thick with judgment. The elders sat in a circle, their long robes heavy with symbols of authority. Ethan stood in the center, his hands steady at his sides. One elder rose, his voice sharp. "Human, do you know what you have done? You have touched the cursed twins. You have eaten with them. You have walked in their shadow. Do you wish to infect us all?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "I am not sick. Your people said the stench kills." "It hasn't killed me." "Maybe you are wrong." The chamber erupted with angry voices. "Blasphemy! He doubts our traditions. The curse is real." The head elder raised a hand for silence. "Human, we do not care if your strange body resists the curse. You have broken our laws. No one is to touch them. No one is to bring them food. They are outcasts, and outcasts they will remain." Ethan's eyes hardened. He had heard such words before on other worlds. Always the same, fear disguised as law, cruelty disguised as tradition. He took a slow breath and said, "Laws that punish children for being born are not laws. They are chains, and I will not wear chains." Gasps filled the chamber. No one had ever spoken to the elders like this. The head elder's eyes narrowed, cold and sharp.
"Then you choose your side, human."
"You choose them." Against us, Ethan did not blink. "Yes, I choose them." The chamber fell silent. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the glowing crystals. Then the elders spoke together in one voice. "So be it. From this day forward, the human is cast out. He may not share our homes, our food, or our air. If he stays alone." Ethan walked out without another word. He felt the weight of their stares, but he also felt something stronger, a quiet certainty burning inside him. He had chosen, and though the road ahead would be hard, it was the right road. That night he returned to the twins. They were waiting for him, eyes wide with fear. They had heard the shouts from the council chamber. They had seen the way the colony looked at him now. They feared he would abandon them too, but Ethan only smiled. He set down his pack and pulled out a small lantern. Its warm glow filled the dark corner where they lived. "From now on," he said softly, "this is our light. No one can take it away." The twins stared at him, confused at first. Then slowly, their faces softened. They leaned against him, their thin shoulders trembling as if afraid this moment would vanish like a dream. But Ethan placed his arms around them gently. For the first time in their lives, they felt the warmth of someone who had chosen them, not out of duty, not out of fear, but out of heart. Outside, the colony whispered in anger. But inside that small circle of light, a bond grew stronger. The smell was still there, yes, but Ethan did not flinch. He had chosen to see past it, to see the souls hidden beneath. And deep in the silence of that night, the twins whispered their first words to him in broken galactic speech. Two small voices, shaky but filled with hope. "Don't
leave." Ethan's answer was firm, steady, and true.
Never. In that vow, the choice was sealed. The colony had lost him. The twins had found him. and the galaxy was about to witness what happened when a human heart refused to bow to fear. Ethan was a man of machines. He had spent years fixing broken ships, patching old engines, and solving problems that others thought impossible. To him, every problem had a cause, and every cause had a solution. So when he looked at the twins, when he saw their eyes shining but their bodies trapped in a curse of odor, he refused to believe it was magic or fate. There had to be a reason. The twins sat close to him that evening, their heads resting against his arms. They had begun to trust him, little by little. They no longer flinched when he spoke, no longer pulled away when he moved, but the smell was still there, heavy in the air, rolling off their skin like an invisible fog. It didn't crush Ethan like it did the colony, but it was strong enough to sting his nose and make his eyes water. He thought to himself, "This isn't normal. Living bodies don't just rot alive. Something must be wrong inside them." The next morning he set to work. He gathered what tools he had: scanners, filters, a small analyzer he used for engines. The colonists laughed when they saw him. "The human wastes his time," they sneered. "He thinks machines can fix curses." But Ethan ignored them. He carried his equipment back to the abandoned corner where the twins lived, determined to prove them wrong. The girls watched curiously as he spread his devices across the dusty ground. He pointed to one, then to himself, and then gently to them, trying to show he meant to study, not to hurt. They exchanged nervous glances but finally nodded. He began with simple scans. The analyzer beeped softly as it read their skin, their breath, their pulse. The reading surprised him. Their hearts were strong, their lungs healthy, their blood rich with oxygen. They were not sick. In fact, they were healthier than most colonists he had seen. Then he tested the air around them. The machine whirred and the screen filled with strange readings. Ethan frowned. The air near the twins was thick with chemical compounds: sulfur, ammonia, and traces of oils. Together they created a smell so powerful it overwhelmed the alien senses of the colony. But here was the strange part. The compounds weren't natural poison. They were defensive. Their bodies were producing them not out of sickness but out of fear. Ethan leaned back, stunned. "It's not a curse," he whispered. "It's a shield." The twins stared at him, not understanding his words but sensing his discovery. He smiled at them gently. "You don't smell bad because you are cursed. You smell bad because you were left alone. Your bodies are protecting you the only way they know how." It all made sense now. The stench began when they were infants, when no one held them, no one comforted them. Their bodies, desperate to survive, created a natural defense to keep others away. And as the years passed, the defense grew stronger, thicker, until it became their prison. Ethan's heart ached. These girls had been hated and abandoned for something that was never their fault. They weren't cursed. They were frightened. He decided to test his theory. He pulled out a small purifier he used for ship cabins. He set it beside them, letting it filter the air. Within minutes, the sharpness of the odor softened. It didn't vanish completely, but it lessened enough for him to breathe freely. The twins looked around in confusion, sniffing the air as if they too noticed the change. Encouraged, Ethan took another step. He prepared warm water in a metal basin, added cleansing salts from his pack, and gently gestured for the girls to come closer. They hesitated, trembling with the memory of rejection. But Ethan dipped his own hands first, washing them slowly, showing it was safe. One of the twins reached out timidly and placed her hand in the water. She gasped at the warmth, her eyes widening. Her sister followed, and soon both of them were washing, scrubbing years of dirt from their skin. Ethan handed them soft cloths, teaching them step by step. As the water darkened, the smell weakened further. The twins touched their skin, amazed, as if they could not believe it themselves. They looked at Ethan with something new in their eyes. Not just trust, but wonder. For the first time, they saw a path out of their prison. That night, Ethan wrote notes in his datapad. Chemical defense triggered by fear. Not disease. Not curse. With care, cleansing, and stability, their bodies may balance naturally. But the colony would not see science. They would see danger. He knew they would fight him for what he had discovered. Already he heard whispers. The human is playing with poison. He will bring doom. Still, Ethan was determined. He looked at the twins sleeping peacefully for the first time, their faces soft in the lantern light. He whispered, "I'll fix this, not because you need fixing, but because the world needs to see the truth of who you are. Far away, the elders plotted in silence. If the humans succeeded, their laws would be broken. Their authority would crumble. And so, while Ethan uncovered the secret of the smell, a greater danger was already moving against him. Days passed, and the corner of the colony that once smelled of rot began to change. The stench had not disappeared completely, but it had weakened. The purifier hummed day and night, filtering the air while Ethan kept washing the twins with warm water and salts. Their skin grew clean, their hair smooth, their clothes less ragged. They were still the same girls, but for the first time they began to look alive instead of abandoned. At first they stayed quiet, speaking only in broken whispers. But slowly, with Ethan's patience, they began to learn. He pointed at things and gave them names in Galactic standard. Bread, he said, offering a piece. Water, he said, holding up his flask. Light, he said, pointing to the lantern. The twins copied his words, sometimes clumsy, sometimes perfect. Every new word made their eyes shine brighter, like a hidden world inside them was opening. Soon, laughter returned to their corner. The girls had never known games, but Ethan showed them how to play simple ones. He tossed a small ball made of cloth, and at first they only stared, unsure of what to do. But when he rolled it gently toward them, they pushed it back, giggling shyly. For the first time, their laughter was louder than the whispers of the colony. Ethan's heart warmed. He had seen broken ships restored, ruined stations rebuilt, but nothing compared to watching broken spirits mend. These girls had lived in chains of fear, but now they were beginning to stretch their wings. But while their bond grew stronger, the colony's patience grew weaker. From the edges of the market, people whispered, "Look at them. They smile with the human. It's unnatural. Why do they obey him?" Some were jealous. Others were afraid. The elders most of all felt their control slipping. For years they had used the twins as a symbol of fear, a warning to obey traditions. But now with Ethan's care, that symbol was crumbling. If the curse was false, then their authority was false too. One evening, as Ethan returned from the market with food, a stone flew past him and struck the wall. He turned sharply. A group of young colonists stood there, their faces twisted with anger. "Stay away from them, human," one shouted. "You bring shame to us all," another added. "You think you can clean demons with water? You are a fool." Ethan's hand curled into a fist, but he did not fight. He only looked them in the eye and said, "If kindness makes me a fool, then I will gladly be one." Then he walked past them, ignoring their laughter. When he reached the twins, he saw their worried faces. They had heard the shouting. He knelt before them and said softly, "Don't be afraid. Let them talk. What we build here is stronger than their words." That night, under the glow of the lantern, the twins sang for the first time. Their voices were soft and uncertain, but beautiful, 2 notes rising together like birds testing their wings. Ethan sat silently, listening, his chest heavy with emotion. They had been silenced all their lives, but now their voices filled the night with fragile hope. The twins leaned against him when they finished, smiling shyly as if asking if it was good. Ethan's eyes were wet, but he smiled back. "It was perfect," he said. "Perfect." But outside their small circle of warmth, darkness brewed. The elders gathered in secret chambers, whispering of the human's growing influence. "The people see him with them," one elder warned. "If they believe the curse is a lie, our laws will break." Another elder slammed his hand on the table. "Then we must remind them. Fear must remain. If not, we lose everything." Plans were made that night, plans to strike before the bond grew too strong. Back in the abandoned corner, the twins slept peacefully at Ethan's side. One of them whispered in her dreams a single word she had learned from him: "Safe." Ethan heard it and smiled, but he did not see the shadows moving against him. For now, the bond between human and twins was like a fire in the darkness, small, but growing. A fire that warmed their hearts, but one that could also ignite a storm in the colony. The choice Ethan made had begun a battle, and though he did not yet know it, the true trial was coming. The bond between Ethan and the twins grew stronger with every passing day, but so did the colony's anger. The whispers had turned into open protests. Mothers pulled their children away whenever Ethan passed. Workers spat on the ground as he walked by. And when the twins dared to step outside their corner with him, People shouted, "Cursed ones," and scattered like dust in the wind. The elders could not ignore it anymore. Their power was slipping and the people were restless. One evening, under the red moons, the elders sent guards to seize Ethan and the twins. Heavy footsteps shook the ground as armored figures entered the abandoned corner. The twins screamed in terror, clinging to Ethan. "By order of the council," the captain declared, "the human and the cursed ones are to stand trial at dawn. Resistance will be punished." Ethan's eyes narrowed, but he did not fight. He looked at the trembling twins and whispered, "It's all right. I'm here." He let the guards take them, knowing that if he resisted now, the twins might be hurt. At dawn, the trial began. The entire colony gathered in the great square, a place where laws were spoken and punishments declared. The air was thick with tension. On a raised platform, the elders sat in judgment. Ethan stood below, the twins clutching his arms, their eyes wide with fear. The head elder rose, his robe flowing like shadow. His voice boomed across the square. "People of the colony! You see before you the cursed twins, born with a stench so vile it poisons our air. For years we have kept them apart to protect ourselves. Yet this outsider, this human, has broken our law. He touched them, fed them, and dared to claim they are not cursed." The crowd murmured, anger and curiosity mixing like fire and smoke. The elder raised his hand. "Today we decide their fate. Shall the human be cast into exile? Shall the cursed ones be thrown into the void, where their stench can harm no more?" A roar of voices filled the square. Some cried for exile, others for death. The twins buried their faces against Ethan, shaking violently. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Listen to me," he shouted. "You call them cursed, but you have never tried to understand them. You let fear blind you. I studied them, and I found the truth. Their smell is not disease. It is not magic, it is fear. Their bodies created it because you abandoned them." The crowd gasped. The elders frowned. One spat the word, "Lies." Ethan continued, his voice louder now. "When I cared for them, when I washed them, when I gave them light and food, the smell began to fade. Look at them. Do they look cursed to you?" All eyes turned to the twins. Their hair was clean now, their skin glowing faintly, their clothes neat. Yes, the odor still lingered, but weaker, bearable. Their emerald eyes shone in the morning sun, full of life. The people murmured again, this time not with anger, but with doubt. "They do look different. Could it be true?" The head elder slammed his staff. "Silence. Do not be fooled. A curse cannot be washed away with water. This human uses tricks to deceive you. If we allow this, our traditions will break, our laws will fall." But then something happened that no one expected. The braver twin, her hands still trembling, stepped forward. Her voice was weak but clear in broken galactic speech. "Not curse, we alive." The crowd froze. For years they had never heard the twins speak. Now their words echoed across the square like thunder. The second twin followed, her voice stronger. "You left us. He stayed." Gasps rippled through the people. The elders looked shaken. The truth was standing before them, living proof that fear had blinded them. Ethan placed a hand on each of their shoulders and said, "If you want to punish someone, punish me. But don't punish them for being born." The crowd was split. Some still shouted for exile. Others whispered of mercy. The elder saw the balance shifting and rage filled their eyes. The head elder declared, "Enough! We decide, not the people. The human is guilty. The twins will be cast into the void tonight." The twins cried out, clinging to Ethan in terror. But before the guards could move, something stirred in the crowd. A young colonist stepped forward. "No, he speaks truth. We have seen the change. The curse was never real." Others joined, their voices rising. "They are not demons. The elders lied to us. We will not kill them." The square exploded in chaos. Half the colony shouted for the elders, half for Ethan. The guards hesitated, unsure who to obey. In that storm of voices, Ethan whispered to the twins, "Stay close. Whatever happens, I won't let them take you." The trial had begun as judgment, but now it was war of belief. Fear against truth, authority against compassion, and as the sun rose higher, one thing became certain. The bond between a human and two once abandoned girls was strong enough to shake an entire world. The square of judgment had turned into chaos. Shouts clashed in the air, half the colony calling for punishment, half demanding mercy. The elders banged their staffs, their voices cracking with rage, but no one listened anymore. For the first time in years, fear was no longer united. Ethan knew this was the moment. He leaned close to the twins, his voice urgent but calm. "We can't stay. If we wait, they'll drag you away. Trust me now." The twins clutched his hands. Their emerald eyes were wet with fear, but also with something new: faith. When the guards hesitated, confused by the divided crowd, Ethan made his move. He pulled the twins close and pushed through the shouting sea of people. Some colonists tried to block him. Others stepped aside. Stones flew, voices cursed, but no one dared strike directly. For every hand that reached to stop him, another hand pulled it back. By the time the elders realized what was happening, Ethan and the twins had vanished into the narrow alleys. The chase began. Guards thundered after them, their armor clanking, their weapons glowing. Ethan led the twins through twisting streets, over broken walls, past forgotten ruins. He knew the colony well enough now to weave through its veins like blood escaping a wound. The twins ran with him, their thin legs swift, their breaths sharp. Once one of them stumbled, but Ethan caught her, lifting her into his arms without breaking stride. "Hold tight," he whispered, and she buried her face against his chest. They reached the edge of the colony where Ethan's small ship waited, an old freighter patched with scars, but alive with power. The guards were close now, their shouts echoing like thunder. The twins froze, their fear thick in the air, the stench returning stronger than before. But Ethan grabbed their hands and pulled them forward. "Don't stop now. We're almost free." They raced up the ramp just as the first guards appeared. Bolts of energy struck the hull, sparks flying. Ethan slammed the door shut and ran to the cockpit. The twins followed, holding on to each other, their eyes wide as the engines roared awake. The freighter shook violently as it lifted off. The colony grew smaller below them, the square now a storm of angry, confused voices. The elders raised their fists, their cries lost in the rising roar of the engines. And then, with a burst of light, Ethan's ship broke through the clouds and into the open stars. For the first time in their lives, the twins saw the galaxy above, without the walls of the colony. Endless darkness scattered with silver stars stretched before them. They pressed their faces to the glass, their eyes wide with wonder. Ethan leaned back in his chair, breathing hard. His body ached, but his heart felt light. They were safe for now. The twins turned to him, their faces glowing in the starlight. They spoke in broken words, halting but filled with emotion. "You saved us." Ethan shook his head. "No, you saved yourselves. I only showed you what was already true. You were never cursed." Silence filled the ship, heavy with meaning. Then slowly both twins moved closer. They touched his hands, their fingers trembling but strong. For years they had been unloved, untouched, unwanted. Now in the silence of the stars they found warmth in the human who had chosen them when no one else would. Days turned into weeks as they traveled together. The twins learned faster now, their voices steady, their laughter freer. The smell that once trapped them grew weaker with each passing day, fading into nothing more than a memory. Their bodies, once locked in fear, had found balance and safety, and their bond with Ethan deepened. They no longer clung to him from fear. They walked beside him with choice. They sang in the evenings, their voices like twin rivers. They learned his stories of Earth, and in return they told him dreams of stars they had never seen. One night, as the ship drifted through silent space, the braver twin spoke clearly in Galactic standard. "We are not cursed," her sister added softly. "We are chosen." Ethan smiled, pride shining in his tired eyes. "Yes," he said, "chosen by me, and by the stars themselves." In time, their bond grew into love. Love born not from pity but from survival, trust, and shared hope. The twins chose Ethan as their protector, their partner, their heart. And Ethan, once a wanderer with no home, found his family in them. The galaxy whispered of them in secret. Colonies spoke of the human who took the cursed twins and turned them into queens. Traders told tales of the sisters whose eyes glowed like emerald fire, and the man who defied fear to stand beside them. And though the elders of that distant colony tried to erase the story, it spread across the stars like wildfire. The cursed were gone. The chosen had risen, and together, aboard a patched old freighter, a human and two alien sisters began a new legend, one that would outlive the colony, outlive the fear, and outlive even the stars.